I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Beth Riley, and I am with the Flamingo Group, and I'm a realtor. And our team has been very interested in the building of green homes. And the start of this is with Joe Pasma from Intercept, and he's the national sales manager for the Intercept Incorporated. I have lots of questions for you, Joe. Now that we're trying to go green, or we're very conscious of going green, more than we were maybe 3 years ago, where is it going? Like before, you said that houses have been built exactly the same for like 150 years. Could you go on the history of what's went on with sticks, and now we're going to panels and building like Legos? What are some of the things that you just if you could shed a little light on that?
Well, with the panelized construction, what it does is it removes a lot of the thermal bridging that we see with stick frame construction. And that's where the energy codes are really pushing to minimize the amount of material that touches the inside of the building as well as the outside of the building. And if you think about stick construction, or even in the picture on the left-hand side, right below the gable in the picture, you can see that there's a mullion there for the window itself, and that's touching both the inside and outside. Well,
Right.
when you do that, the wood itself has less R value than that foam insulation. If you think back to that foam coffee cup that you guys have when you go to the restaurant or wherever, there's only an eighth of an inch of thickness of that material, and yet the water or coffee that's in that, or tea or beer, I guess you're not drinking beer out of a coffee cup, but the hot coffee at 200 degrees doesn't burn your fingers. Well, the same kind of thing happens with the house itself. So by putting the foam in between and minimizing the amount of material that touches that inside skin and the outside of the building, you reduce that thermal bridging. So with that in mind, the SIPs, you can set them in place, and it does that. Most stick construction, they talk about having a 25% framing factor. That means when you look at a wall, you see about 25% of that is solid material touching the inside face and the outside face. SIP construction is down to about 3 to 5% of a framing factor, where you have material touching both the inside and the outside of the building. And that'll happen like the windows, your sill plate at the bottom of a wall, at the top of a wall, or the eye joists that you see in the side of that roof panel hanging off of the telescoping handler as it's being set into place.
So when they're doing this and when you're doing this construction, are you using regular windows? Are you using shingles, or is everything
Yes,
else the same?
absolutely. Everything is the same. And the cool thing about SIPs today, as the energy codes are evolving, they're talking about a thing called continuous insulation. And they realize that that thermal bridging that's occurring from the inside to the outside is reducing the energy efficiency of the walls and the roof of our homes. So what the building codes are mandating is that we put a continuous layer of rigid insulation on the outside of our walls. And they want that to be 1.5 to 2 inches in thickness. So now
Really?
when you think about a stud wall, a 2x6 stud wall that's 5.5 inches thick, and you put your sheathing 1/2 inch on the outside of that, you got a 6 inch thick wall. But now you have to put another layer of 1.5 to 2 inch insulation on the outside of that, which means that when you put in your windows, now your that jamb extension has to go to something close to 8 inches. With the
Okay.
SIP panel, you get that same energy efficiency, but you don't have to go through those extra steps of putting that rigid insulation on the outside of the walls. So it really simplifies construction from that standpoint. And that's where that less labor comes into play. You can
Sure.
see or
And they don't have
realize.
to be on site, meaning going to all the different sites and to do that. Could you less labor? Yeah. So that would be, how much does it cost to build a SIP building?
It's very
Uh,
similar
yeah,
it's
approximately.
it's very similar when you look at the final price of the house. It's very similar to stick frame construction. Actually, it can be a little bit less because with the building being so tight and energy efficient, you can start to downsize your mechanical equipment. So that means you can have a smaller furnace smaller air conditioning system, which costs less, which use less energy. So in the end, what you're paying on your mortgage is actually less than if you'd built a stick frame home. Because now, one of the things that a lot of people will consider is if you just have a pile of sticks sitting on a job site ready to be put up and the panels put up, the panels are going to cost more. But the reason for that is they're already insulated and you don't have to apply all those other materials to it. You set them in place and finish them.